Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new, hi, my name is Lisa, and I love colorful makeup. I love indie brands. I love makeup in general. But you know what? This video is another episode of Music Inside the Makeup, and hey, if you're new, hopefully you subscribe. We have fun here. Music Inside the Makeup is something that I do once a month, usually on the second Saturday of every month. I'm a little behind, y'all. I'm a little behind. And I'll pick one of my favorite bands and then one of my favorite indie brands. One of their palettes or two kind of coincide with either the aesthetic of the band or the aesthetic that the songs, which I'll pick a song or two. So if that sounds like you're something interested in, then keep on watching. Please do throw a like and share. It truly helps me out. And this month I have picked The Doors. Yes, The Doors. And I am only going to use one palette, and it is the new Devinah Cosmetics palette, Perfect Storm. But here is what she is giving. Now, I picked this palette, let alone like with the packaging. It's mysterious. This is the new rebrand of Devinah. It has already launched. She's been out for, I want to say, at least a week. This was the 10-year anniversary of Devinah Cosmetics, which was based on inspiration where she is in Oregon. The storms out there, she had said, are unlike any other that she's ever seen, and they're just really beautiful. And so this color story is kind of the perfect storm. The clouds, the stormy clouds, you know, they're gray leaning, but they're also a little bit of a bluish and purplish, and that's where the inspiration for this palette has come from. And when I think about The Doors, you know, especially with Jim Morrison, pulling the inspiration and saying, hey, this is a mysterious looking palette in itself. Just the way that when you turn it, it's purple, but when you turn it another way, it is like this beautiful indigo blue. It's beautiful and it's mysterious to me. You know, I love The Doors. The song that I have chosen is Riders in the Storm. I just think it goes perfectly. With that, we are going to read a little history about The Doors, and then we are going to do a tutorial, create a look with this palette. So please do grab your brushes. Maybe you have this palette when it launched, or shop your stash, maybe a similar color story. And yeah, grab your brushes, your toddy, your water, your coffee, what have you, and come on back and let's read about The Doors and then create a look. I have my grainy glasses on, and hopefully with this headband, yeah, we are getting ready to actually go and see Lita Ford at the Leesburg Bike Rally. So she'll be on the main stage at like 9 o'clock tonight, and I'm super excited. Never got a chance to see Lita Ford back in the day, so this is really full circle. This is on the Doors Spotify account, so it's public knowledge. 11,244,206 listeners a month, including myself. The Doors mark the moment when the American rock underground of the 1960s came crashing into the mainstream. The group's massive influence on the course of rock music may been overshadowed by decades of lionization of their late lead singer Jim Morrison, whose early death wound up being a pivotal part of their legacy. He seemed to loom larger in his afterlife than he did when he roamed the earth. His popularity cresting in the 80s as the Doors returned to radio airwaves in the wake of their magnum opus, The End, soundtracking pivotal moments in Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now, The End. Never appeared as a single, but its oedipal melodrama zeroed in on the Doors' appeal back in 1967. The group seemed otherworldly and dangerous, drawing from inspirations not normally heard in rock music. Morrison's heated poetry and hedonism were generally new at the time the Doors released their self-titled debut in 1967. As were the droning guitars of Robbie Krieger and cascading organ lines of Ray Manzarek, who also played keyboard bass in concert. On record, session musicians often laid down a bass part. Underneath their trippy surface, the Doors were veterans of the Los Angeles garage scene, and their affinity for blues and hard rock gave the band a flinty earthiness that served them well throughout their career. It's certainly evident on their biggest hit singles, including Light My Fire, Love Me Two Times, Hello, I Love You, Touch Me, and Love Her Madly. The blend of muscle and mysticism helped shape the parameters of punk and art rock. It's difficult to imagine Iggy Pop without the Doors, and ultimately wound up being their biggest lasting influence, eclipsing the Morrison mythos in years of play on classic rock radio. The roots of the Doors lay in Rick and the Ravens, a fratty rock and roll combo comprising Rick and Jim Manzarek and featuring their brother Ray on keyboards. Ray had been playing with the group since 1961, sticking with it as he enrolled in UCLA's graduate film program. By hapstance, he met a fellow student by the name of Jim Morrison. While they were both on Venice Beach, the pair hit it off, and Manzarek encouraged Morrison to sing with Rick and the Ravens. During the course of 1965, Morrison gradually became part of the group, with John Densmore, a drummer for the Psychedelic Rangers, who was an acquaintance of Manzarek's, joining the band that summer. They headed into Los Angeles' World Pacific Studios to record a demo in September 1965, cutting the first versions of Moonlight Drive, Hello, I Love You, and Summer's Almost Gone. Not long afterward, the band renamed itself The Doors upon the suggestion of Morrison, and they soon lost Rick and Jim Manzarek. Along with Pat Hansen, aka Patty Sullivan, the bassist who played on the World Pacific session. Between the two departures came the arrival of Robbie Krieger, a guitarist who played with Densmore in the Psychedelic Rangers. The band never replaced Hansen. Manzarek decided to play bass via the Fender Rhodes piano bass, which had just hit the market. Doors scored a residency at the London Fog, a club situated on the Sunset Strip, in the first months of 1966. The group worked out the kinks in their chemistry and material while at the venue, so when they started playing the Whiskey A Go-Go that summer, they had found their voice. Upon the recommendation of Loves' Arthur Lee, Jack Holzman, the president of Elektra Records, and producer Paul A. Rothschild, witnessed 2 sets from the Doors on August 10th, 1966. Just over a week later, the band signed to Elektra, which also was home to Love. Within the next 7 days, the Doors were fired from the Whiskey thanks to Morrison's onstage profanity during The End, and they headed into Sunset Sound to record their debut. The Doors headed to stores during the first week of 1967. The band immediately supported the album through the local television performances and the release of Break On Through, which failed to garner much attention nationally. What broke the Doors in America was Light My Fire, a cascading epic trunicated to a tight pop single in April 1967. Over the course of the summer of 1967, Light My Fire climbed its way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, an ascent punctuated by an appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show, where Morrison sang, "Girl, we couldn't get much higher." in defiance of the request of a tamer lyric on the part of the show's producers, turning the Doors into stars in the process. By the time Light My Fire ended its run on the charts, the Doors had their second album, Strange Days, ready to go. Strange Days was knocked out quickly, constructed largely of songs the Doors had been kicking around for a while. The record performed like an aftershock on the charts. It went to number 3, thanks largely to its first single, People Are Strange, which just missed the top 10, peaking at 12 as its second single. Love Me Two Times worked its way to its 25 placement. Morrison had his first skirmish with the law during a concert at New Haven Arena in Connecticut on December 9th, 1967. Morrison provoked the police through a number of verbal jabs, and the men in blue responded by hauling him off to jail on charges of public obscenity, indecency, and enticing a riot. Charges were eventually dropped due to lack of evidence, but the incident was instrumental in turning the singer into a rock and roll outlaw while also proving a harbinger for Morrison's reckless behavior. The arrest had no immediate effect on the Doors' popularity, which grew during 1968 as the group played bigger concerts, which sometimes plagued by skirmishes between audiences and the police. Waiting for the Sun, their third album, consolidated this popularity, reaching number 1 on the strength of its number 1 single, Hello, I Love You. But the sessions with the producer, Rothschild, were difficult. By that point, the group had exhausted its pre-existing songbook, and the producer rejected the side-long suit Celebration of the Lizard, leaving the band to compose many of the songs in the studio. By the end of the year, the group bounced back with Touch Me, a boastful single buoyed by blaring horns that gave them a number 3 hit in early '69. As the Doors worked on the hit's accompanying album, The Soft Parade, the band's momentum was disrupted by a March 1st, 1969 concert in Miami that ended with a warrant being served for Morrison's arrest. Key charge hinged upon an allegation that Morrison exposed himself during a drunken onstage rant, a charge the singer and the rest of the Doors denied. The singer declined a plea bargain and was convicted to serve 6 months. He remained free as he pursued an appeal. Morrison's arrest, combined with his increasing alcoholism, wound up hampering the band, and with its heavy-handed orchestral arrangements, The Soft Parade opened the doors up to accusations of selling out. The Soft Parade still went into the top 10 upon its summer 1969 release, but none of the record's subsequent 3 singles cracked Billboard's top 40. A notable slowing in the band's commercial fortunes. Morrison Hotel, the band's harder, streamlined LP from early 1970, also didn't generate a hit. Roadhouse Blues, the flip of its single, You Make Me Real, would later be an album rock staple. Yet it found the band writing itself artistically. Audiences responded by sending the album to number 4 on Billboard, bolstered by the summer release of the concert album. The Doors toured throughout 1970, often holding concerts that came under the fire of local municipalities, conflicts fueled by Morrison's reckless behavior. The year culminated with Morrison walking out of a December 12th show in New Orleans. It turned out to be the last concert he'd play with the Doors. In the first months of 1971, the Doors wrapped up the recording of L.A. Woman, an album that found them serving ties with their longtime producer, Rothschild. He was replaced by Bruce Botnick. Extending the harder sound of Morrison Hotel, L.A. Woman appeared in the spring of 1971, accompanied by the single Love Her Madly. The single went to 11 on Billboard's top 40, followed by a number 14 placement for the Moody Riders on the Storm. With the album reaching 9 on the album chart, the group's comeback was short-lived. Jim Morrison was found deceased on July 23rd, 1971, just weeks after the release of L.A. Woman. Morrison's early death cemented his place in rock's firmament, but the Doors did not disband in the wake of his passing. At the time of his death, Krieger, Manzarek, and Densmore were in the thick of recording a new album, expecting that the singer would add vocals sometime during the summer of 1971. When he died, the band finished the LP that became Other Voices. The guitarist and keyboardist split lead vocal duties, releasing it in October of that year and supporting it with live shows. It performed respectively on the charts, reaching 31 on the Billboard. Full Circle followed less than a year later, reaching 68, an underwhelming position, considering how the compilation Weird Scenes Inside the Gold Mine went to 55 earlier that year. But by that point, the band was on its last legs and they split in 1973. A few years later, the surviving Doors reconvened to set several spoken word recordings by Jim Morrison to music. The resulting in An American Prayer appeared in 1978, the first flowering of a Jim Morrison revival that spilled into the 80s. An American Prayer didn't sell well, but Francis Ford Coppola's 1979 Vietnam War epic Apocalypse Now had two sequences featuring the end, exposing the band's darker side to new audiences. A year later, No One Here Gets Out Alive, a biography of Morrison by Jerry Hopkins and Danny Sugarman, was published and it became a hit, leading to Doors' songs returning to FM airwaves and the release of a greatest hits album. This surge of interest in the band led Rolling Stone to put the singer on the cover in September of 1981 with the tagline, Jim Morrison, he's hot, he's sexy, and he's dead. In the article, Byron Breidenthal, I think I said that right, the public relations vice president at Elektra Asylum Records, claimed, "We've sold more Doors records this year than in any year since they were first released." Throughout the 80s, the interest in the Doors didn't wane, thanks to a series of archival releases kickstarted by 1983's Alive, She Cried, a compilation of concert performances that peaked at 23 on Billboard. 4 years later, the Live at the Hollywood Bowl album was released. This resurgence of interest in the Doors culminated in March 1991 when Oliver Stone's biopic starring Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison and Kyle MacLachlan as Ray Manzarek, with Kevin Dillon portraying John Densmore and Frank Whaley playing Robbie Krieger, hit the theaters. It's an amazing movie. If you've never seen it, you gotta see it. Those actors did amazing job. Val Kilmer was just amazing playing Jim Morrison. Hit the theaters in its wake. The live album in concert appeared in the stores. The Doors were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993 and then released a career-spanning compilation, the Doors box set, in 1997, which featured the surviving members reuniting to finish off the outtake Orange County Suite. The low-key reunion continued in 2000 when the group recorded a spot on VH1's Storytellers, which featured guest spots by many new rockers, including Scott Weiland, Scott Stapp, and Train's Pat Monahan. Also arriving in 2000 was the tribute album Stoned Immaculate, the music of the Doors, and the launch of the Bright Midnight series of archival concerts. Over the next 2 decades, Bright Midnight released notable live performances on a regular basis. In 2002, Manzarek and Krieger teamed up for a new project called The Doors of the 21st Century, featuring Ian Atsbury of The Cult on vocals. Within a year, Densmore filed an injunction. against the pair over the use of the Doors' name, leading the guitarist and keyboardist to tour under variations of their surnames. Ray Manzarek died from bile duct cancer at the age of 74 in May 2013. After his death, Krieger and Densmore reunited in tribute at the benefit concert Stand Up to Cancer in 2020. The pair teamed up again for the Homeward Bound concert, a charity event in Los Angeles. For this event, they played with Krist Novoselic of Nirvana, Micah Nelson, and Haley Reinhart. And this is credited to Stephen Thomas, Ella Wine, and Rovi. With that, I mean, some of this I really didn't know whatsoever about the Doors and the lengthy time that they kept it going after Jim Morrison's passing. So, you know, again, the Doors, legends in their own right. Jim Morrison, just the god of rock, you know, and the ending of something else from what a lot of groupies and ladies would say, okay? Grab your brushes, turn up some Doors, shop your stash, like I said, or maybe you have this palette, and let's create a look together using Devinah Cosmetics, The Perfect Storm. Alrighty, we literally are about 5 days later. Y'all, listen, my life, okay? My life. But we are finishing up Music Inside the Makeup, and I hope you grabbed your brushes and cranking up the Doors, whatever song you want. We are going to create an eye look. So I am going to take my Devinah brushes as well. I'm going to start with this shade right here, the darkest shade. Now there's no names on the palette itself as far as the inside. They are labeled on the back. All the shades are labeled. This is Blackout Horizon. Now I will be creating a video on this collection, so hopefully you keep an eye out for that. So once again, if you're new, hopefully you subscribe and keep your eyes out for that video. Start off with this brush here. It is the D108. And I'm also going to be creating another video on the new palette from What's Up Beauty, the Skyfire palette. So I've got some content coming y'all's way. I really do. And thank goodness, because all I've been doing is working. And this third shift has been kicking my ass. I kid you not, I slept for 14 hours yesterday. My eyes are primed with my MAC paint pot in Soft Ochre. And here we go. I am gonna V this out. And I'm gonna build it up. And we are, as I said, hooded eye gals here. So I wanna make sure that I get in my crease and on my hood. And I'm just gonna slowly build this up, and I'm pulling this upward and out, patting like that. Because of my hooded eyes, I wanna make sure that when my look is completed, you're gonna be able to see it. That if I'm looking at you straight on, you can just see a sliver of my actual lid in all of this, like, you know, puffy hooded eye. So I went in again. Shadows are clay based or mattes, and if you have oily lids, and have a hard time with your shadows like staying for long periods of time because you have oily lids, then Devinah is definitely going to be for you. So do check them out. She has beautiful colors, beautiful multi-chromes, duochromes, shimmers, foils, you name it. But I love coming on here. Creative process with you guys. You know, having fun. Yes. This little smudger, which is the 102. I'm gonna go into that same shade. I'm gonna come down here, my lower lash line. I'm gonna smudge that in. Like that. I'm gonna go in now with this shade here, which is one of the lightest purple, with, this is the 105. So this is a shadow shader packer brush. From the inner portion out, and I am gonna put on one more shade that's gonna be right here before I go in with shimmers, because I want the shimmer to be impactful out here, but light on the inner portion. So let me know in the comments, did you guys get this collection on launch, or did you just get the 36 pan, magnetic pan palette, or this palette, or just some of the singles? I'd really love to know and hear from you and what you think of the rebrand for Devinah. And do you love the doors? Are you like that old like me, where in your household you were hearing the doors? My uncles were always blaring the doors. This is a dark, sultry, beautiful palette. So if you like those, you know, kind of gothy looks, if you're just looking for a dark, moody palette, then this is for you, for sure. So I wiped off my brush, and now I'm just blending, patting this in. I wipe off my brush again. And I am going to blend these harsh lines out. Gotta trust the process, y'all. Trust the process. No product. Just going to blend these harsh lines away. Yeah. I'm taking the 106, and now I'm gonna go into the deeper shade next to the one that I started with. So this dark gray, this is like a gray blue, and then a deep dark gray, a light gray. Then we've got this lighter kind of lavender, or a lilac, I should say. This like lilac gray almost. It's a very intriguing and interesting color story. And again, Deandra kind of got her inspiration when it storms. You know, she was saying that they're just, the clouds are unlike any other anywhere else, the storm clouds. And that's where she kind of pulled inspiration for this palette. And I think it's pretty amazing. So I definitely could see where she was coming from, and I love it. So, and I'm going to place that right here. And kind of just blended those edges out. just gonna take a really small brush. This is so handy to have. It is the 101. It's really good for inner corner, or if you want to do liner, this is really good, or on top here, really good. The light gray, and I'm gonna put that on my inner corner here. Real soft, almost come to a point like the cat eye, so it's matching this tail that I have going here. And then I'm going to triangle that into my lower lash here. And I'm going to take this. Also, I'm going to go into this shimmer right here. This one. I'm going to use the new What's Up Beauty black eyeliner. Ooh. I'll put her right here. Just to kind of bring this up and give some sparkle. Like that. Into that same shade. And y'all already know I need to put it on my brow bone. Like that. That looks like lightning. Looks like lightning. Oh, wow. Bam. Beautiful. So, because this is just a dark, moody palette, I'm using these two shades, well, actually three. What's Up Beauty black eyeliner. And I've been testing this out. And this is a good liner. So I'm going to put some of this in my waterline. This smudges out really nice too. Now I'm going to take that smudger brush, just line her out a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some glitter glue on, mascara, probably a lash for sure. The new ColourPop palette, and I can't remember, Silver Lining or something like that. That's an all gray palette. You could use this as a companion palette with that palette for sure. So, with that being said, I'll be right back. Here's the finished look, everyone. So, took my Devinah Cosmetics. This is the Specular Sparkle and Shimmer Glue Base. Just a heat of warning. Don't put this on until you are ready to put your shimmers on directly. Just, it dries down quick, just to let you know. I took these two shimmers here. This one, as I said, on the inner corner, and then took this purple shimmer just on the outside, took it on the wing, both of them winged them. Winged them? Okay, still tired, yeah. Blended those in. This came out badass, in my opinion. It's been a hot minute since I've done a glam look, so y'all, loving this. Love Devinah, period. I decided to deepen this up in the inner corner and bring it just up, almost like a spotlight halo, with this shade here, and then just brought it and blended it a little bit. And that be it. Didn't care for my lip combo, so I just kept what I had on and decided to take the Unearthly Cosmetics Menacing Metal in Void. This is straight up liquid metal right here. Also, to stay with the Unearthly Cosmetics theme is their new lashes. I have 2 pair. I bought Mystic. They open like this. I think the artwork, as always, one with Unearthly is amazing. So I bought Mystic, and that's what I'm wearing. I did cut them a little bit on the inner corners. Here is the other one with Mystic that I didn't know and I saw is she's got little tufts of like light brown with the black lash, which I think is fabulous in my opinion. And then the other pair that I got are called Immortal, and that's what they look like here. And in my opinion, I've always said anyone with hooded eyes, the wispier on the outside, the better, in my opinion. The Devinah brushes. These are amazing. The best thing that you can do when you're creating any kind of looks or you're just getting into eyeshadow looks is investing in your brushes. All brushes are not created equal, and neither is all brands. With that, I hope you enjoyed this month's Music Inside the Makeup with The Doors and Devinah Cosmetics. Yes. And I do have an affiliate code with Devinah, which will save you 15%. It is all capital letters, FFM Lisa. So if you use it, thank you so very much. It saves you a little moolah, helps me out as a creator. So thank you so much. But as I always say, if not, that's okay too. Just use a code, you know, save yourself a little bit of cash. So with that, y'all, keep creating, keep rocking. Hope to see you in the next one. Till next time.